tell you more about the King of Harlem. Let's say hello to John Michael Lyles and David Gomez. Welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
y'all. I am John Michael Lyles. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm very excited to be here. I'm from Mesquite, Texas, but now I live in Harlem. I'm a multi-hyphenate creative. I have been lucky enough to originate two roles on Broadway, Thought 3 in A Strange Loop, and Eli in the Heart of Rock and Roll. And I'm also a writer. I've got my debut EP coming out this summer called How to Stay Bright. And I am co-writing the book, music, and lyrics to The King of Harlem with David Gomez.
Hi, I'm David, he, him, his. I'm originally from Kansas City, where I'm beaming into you now from. I'm a composer, lyricist, and librettist, and a passionate arts educator. Some of my work is geared at younger audiences, but I primarily am a musical theater writer. And I love working with collaborators who wear lots of hats, and John Michael wears so many of them wonderfully. And in this collaboration, I compose on piano and he composes on guitar. And yeah, why don't you tell us how this origin of King of Harlem got started, John Michael?
Gladly. So David and I actually went to college together. We went to Pace University. That's where we got our BFA. And we also took a bunch of musical theater writing courses, and that's where we started collaborating. But then randomly, we ended up in this Spanish theater course that we really, really loved. And so naturally, we spent part of the semester learning about this man named Federico Garcia Lorca. And I showed up to college like already loving Lorca because I had done a production of Blood Wedding in high school. But there was something that I didn't know about Lorca, and that fact was that he was a gay man. And as we all know, it's hard out here for a gay man in the 1920s and 30s. And so David and I were really moved when we found out about that because his three hit tragedy plays center around themes of unrequited love. And so when we found out that he was, navigating his own relationship with unrequited love and queerness in the 1920s, it just like made us weep when we were so moved and inspired by this man. But then we learned something else. We learned that he studied at Columbia University in 1929. So he was like dorming in Harlem in 1929, which is iconic. And we were like, I smell a musical here. And he wrote a book of poems called Poet in New York. And there was one poem in particular called El Rey de Harlem, which translates to the King of Harlem. And this poem was very like Black specific. It was very like apocalyptic and like raging against the capitalist machine of America. And we were like, this is the inspiration for our musical. And so we used that poem. We knew we had Lorca, but we needed a protagonist for our gay love story. And so from that poem, we built our protagonist, Mercy Wheatley. And David is going to tell you more about the plot and the score.
Yeah. So King of Harlem follows the story of Mercy Wheatley, who's this up-and-coming prize fighter who's engaged to marry a woman, but after a chance encounter with Federico Garcia Lorca on Riverside Drive, Mercy is forced to choose between the truth of his gay desire and the hyper-masculine ideal, perfect like image he's created for himself as the King of Harlem. And as the two are falling in love, it's the height of the Harlem Renaissance, and they go to lots of fun parties and learn and grow from each other and also have to overcome some cultural and language barrier differences. The score is a little bit like the love story in that it's set in the world of Harlem jazz, but our two characters aren't from New York. Mercy's from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and has come to New York to achieve his dreams. And so the score for him is a sort of southern fried, bluesy acoustic guitar sound. And Federico, being from Spain, it has this flamenco Spanish folk edge to the score. And he also, while being a playwright, he wrote a few like little songs and melodies. And so we've woven them in as a kind of little Valentine to him in the score. And just kind of like the lovers, it's exciting to see the way these influences come together and hear what happens musically when the worlds collide.
We are excited about a lot of things in regard to our musical, but one thing that we find particularly exciting is that the poem that inspired it, the Lorca himself and Harlem and the Harlem Renaissance, happened in 1929. And accept it or not, we are fast approaching the 100-year anniversary. So we need to put on our hyaluronic acid because we're old. But I'm really excited about that because, I live in Harlem. So I walk on the very streets that Lorca was walking, that Mercy would have walked on, where these gay men were like, having seedy love affairs on Riverside Drive. And so our hope for the 100-year anniversary is that we can have a production of the show and audiences can watch it and queer people can ask themselves, okay, if I lived 100 years ago, how hard would I have fought for love? Would I have chosen safety or romance? Would I have chosen economic stability or passion? Would I have used my art to make a dollar or to make a difference? And to be clear, we're hoping that our musical can do both. And we are very, very excited to share it with you all.
Yeah. And I also just wanted to shout out NAMT itself, like just being invited into this group. And it's such a great sense of community. But our very last development opportunity, we saw these wonderful college students from Montclair doing our very last draft in the winter. And so it's so wonderful to just know that we've been welcomed into this community and that you all have helped us get to this next draft. So that's really awesome. We are so looking forward to getting to meet all of you at the festival. And yeah, if you want more information about King of Harlem, you can go through the beautifully designed NAMT website.